What are you at? It's Paul from Wicked Acorn. Welcome back. What day is it today? I lose track of the days. It's let's close this. We don't need that open anymore, I don't think. I've been watching the video we're gonna watch. One of the videos we're gonna watch tonight is like an hour and a half long, so I'm not gonna play the whole thing. So I've just been watching it while the music plays there and waiting to go live. But that's not what we're going to look at today. What are we looking at today? I got to get my screen up here. Oops, wrong button. Presenter view. No. There we go. That's what I need. Takes a while to get situated here. Turn the chat on. Good evening, Astrax. What are we looking at today? Where are we? It is the 9th of October. The 9th of October, and today in history. Wonder what happened today in history. Apparently, I'm a great singer. Is that a clue? Did anybody pick up on my clue there? This was our Where Is It photo, our mystery photo from the last time. Did anybody notice this up here? Up there? Anybody know where this place is? It doesn't exist anymore. I've just learned. So, gotta get me tea. Hope you got your Brew Crew mug. So that is what we're going to look at tonight, something related to that photo, and we'll find out where it is in a moment. This is tomorrow's mystery photo. So have a look at that while I have a sip of tea. Oh, I see there's an ad playing over on my screen. Well, who we got here? Jamie Jordan. Hello, Jamie Jordan. Looks like the mill in Oldham. No, it's not in Oldham. It is, well, we'll get to that in a moment. That's our mystery photo for next time. We'll just go through a few events that happened this day in history. The 9th of October. We've been covering, yes, it is the Singer Factory in Scotland, and we'll get to that in a moment. We've been covering a lot of American Revolutionary War history this month. I guess a lot of things happened this month and end of last month in the American Revolution. In 1781, Americans under George Washington and the French under Comte de Rochambeau begin bombardment of Yorktown, the last battle of the American Revolutionary War. And I learned a lot about American history because we had American television, cable TV. A lot of it came in from the States. We call it the States. We don't call it America. We call it the States. October 9th, 1867, Alexander Graham Bell and his assistant Thomas A. Watson conducted the world's first two-way telephone conversation over outdoor wires. The call took place over a 2-mile telegraph wire between Cambridgeport and Boston, Massachusetts. This is an interesting one because, as I said, I grew up watching a lot of American television, and Americans are very proud of their history. And of course, we're all proud of our history, but the Americans wear it on their sleeve quite a bit. Oh, did she? Your mom went to that hippodrome. Okay, so I guess you may know where it is. This is the Washington Monument. and it officially opened for public admission on October 9th, 1888. Its opening followed decades of planning, fundraising challenges, and construction delays caused by financial difficulties, the Civil War, and political turmoil. So you knows where it is, do you? All right. I don't actually knows where it is. Is it still there? I don't know. It was just a photo that related to tomorrow's video. Um, this is quite interesting. As I said, I've learned a lot of American history. And the American Civil War, when I was a little kid, we went down to visit family in Georgia. And Georgia was really hard hit by the American Civil War. So there's a lot of American Civil War history in Georgia. And it really got me interested in history. And, you know, the American Civil War is like the first war to really be well documented. You know, photography was really coming into its own. And so it's the first war to really be documented well. And it really got me interested in history in general, but American Civil War history I found really interesting. And this is a really interesting thing about the Washington Monument and the Civil War. So it was built in the 1850s, 1860s, somewhere around there. And the photo on the left is around 1860, I think. And that's as far as they got. And the American Civil War started. And it took decades to start it up again. And if you notice the photo on the right here, there's a visible scar. It's really poignant that this scar is in the Washington Monument. When they picked up construction again on the Washington Monument after the American Civil War, the quarry where they got the stone, I guess they had used up all the stone. At any rate, they used a different quarry and a different stone, and there's a visible scar in the Washington Monument. It's really a poignant piece of history represented in stone. So I've always liked that about the Washington Monument. Hello, World Peace. It was closed in 1961. Okay, I don't know much about this place, so the video tomorrow is not about that specific place, but it is related to that place. You'll see tomorrow if you tune in. So that's the Washington Monument that opened today in 1888. The Hoover Dam, we were talking about that. That was on our quiz the other night. October 9th, 1936, the Hoover Dam began transmitting electricity to Los Angeles, marking the first time the dam sent power over 266 miles of transmission lines to the growing city. The event was met with public celebration, including a parade on Broadway featuring thousands of people in a street ablaze with the new power from the dam. And that was a big make work project during the Depression. Oh, so it's gone. The place, the mystery photo. Yeah, this was a make work project for all the unemployed in the during the Great Depression. And it just goes to show, I mean, this is a monument to what we can do. You know, like the government stepped in and put people to work and gave them a meaningful existence during the Great Depression with these make work projects. On this day in history, in 1985, Strawberry Fields Memorial in Central Park in New York was opened by Mayor Ed Koch. And I've been to this several times. This is in Central Park. And I actually have made my own version of it. So this is one of the things I make. So that's just a print of the one I made. It was a table, and the print is on slate. And that's one that got knocked over at the market and the glass got broken, and I've never fixed it. So it hangs in my living room. It's just a nice little thing. I'm a big Beatle fan, as I've mentioned before. And of course, it was unveiled today. The Strawberry Fields Memorial was opened in 1985 on this day because it's John Lennon's birthday. And that's another mosaic I made of John Lennon. And it's his birthday today, 1940. So I'm not going to tell you anything about John Lennon. If you don't know who John Lennon is, you've been living under a rock. Brian Blessed. It's Brian Blessed's birthday today. The renowned English actor known for his booming voice and adventurous spirit was born on October 9th, 1936. He is recognized for his powerful stage and screen performance. He has a very big voice, doesn't he? Including his roles in Flash Gordon, Blackadder, and original production of the musical Cats, as well as his numerous expeditions and attempts to climb Mount Everest. I didn't have a chance to look it up, but I thought he did climb Mount Everest. Like at 80 something years old, he climbed Mount Everest. I thought he had completed it and made it to the top, but perhaps he didn't. That's what this blurb says anyway. Attempts to climb Mount Everest. I thought he had actually done it. At any rate, it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Brian Blessed. And it's also Sharon Osbourne's birthday today. She's 73 today, I guess. English and American television personality, music manager, and author, born on October 9th, 1952. She is the widow of heavy metal singer Ozzy Osbourne. And Ozzy, like myself, is a huge Beatle fan. And I have no doubt that part of the reason, probably not a big part of the reason, but part of the reason that Ozzy married Sharon Osbourne is because she shared John Lennon's birthday. And when I discovered this yesterday, or whenever it was, the day before, that it was Sharon Osbourne's birthday, and I went, because Ozzy was such a huge Beatle fan. On December 9th, 2003, I remember when this happened, Ozzy fell off this ATV and got really messed up. He got injured really badly. Was badly injured December 9th, 2003, quad bike accident at his home in Buckinghamshire, England, suffering a broken neck vertebra, 8 broken ribs, a broken collarbone, and a pierced lung. He was left with a lack of blood flow to his arm, requiring emergency surgery, and was placed in an induced coma. The accident happened during a promotional tour and was filmed by crews for his reality show, The Osbournes. So I remember when that happened. It's not funny, but I have a feeling it was because December 8th is the anniversary of Lennon's death. So he was probably all drunk and hungover and messed up, racing around on his quad bike, and got very badly injured apparently. So we've already figured out where it is. Asterix, I believe you said it was, yes, Asterix said the Singer Factory in Scotland. And that's what we're going to look at today, because today in history, 1885, American inventor Isaac Singer patents the sewing machine motor. So 1855. The sewing machine was invented long before that. And the history of the sewing machine is fascinating. I've been looking at all kinds of videos and things, history of the sewing machine, and it's a fascinating history. Nobody knows who invented the sewing machine. There are several people that have laid claim to it. One guy had a working sewing machine and didn't file the patent. And then this guy, Isaac Howe, made a sewing machine, and Singer copied Howe's design. Howe sued Singer, and Singer said, "Well, you didn't invent it. You just stole it from someone else, the other guy who didn't file a patent on it." Anyway, very interesting history behind the sewing machine. And what an amazing machine when you think about it. And coincidentally, this got dropped off to me a few days ago. A friend of mine dropped this off and said it doesn't work. If you can make it work, you can have at it. So I've kind of got visiting rights, partial ownership of this sewing machine if I can fix it. So that'll be an interesting thing to do. And a Singer sewing machine at that. So I haven't tried it yet. I don't know if it might just work fine. Anyway, that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at sewing machines. The history of the sewing machine. And got a couple of videos here. This one is quite good, and I'll just let it play and we'll talk about it in a second.
Hey guys, welcome to the Homestead. Glad you're here today. Today we're going to do a walkthrough on my Singer Treadle sewing machine. This is a fourth, or depending how you look at it, fifth generation Singer in my family. This was originally owned by my great-grandmother and now my children's great-great-grandmother. But before we get into a little bit of that history and how I think that's just amazing, let me give you a little bit of information on this machine. A lot of people are kind of shocked to discover, as I was, that these really aren't worth a whole lot of money.
So I'm pretty sure that's the exact kind my grandmother had. And I think my aunt has it now. And oh God, I remember that machine so well. I can remember us. My grandmother made a quilt, for one for me and one for my sister, and I think I still have it in a box back home in storage somewhere. Anyway, it's the exact same machine that my grandmother had, and I remember sitting in her room at the sewing machine, just giving her on it, pumping that treadle as fast as I could. Good evening, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're talking about sewing machines tonight. Yeah, we really punished that machine, and it still worked. It still works to this day, I'm sure. Like, incredible. The punishment that went through so many grandchildren playing with it.
They're beautiful antiques, and people just love having them in their homes. And I think one fits really well here on an off-grid homestead. But the reality is, there were so many of these things made. One of the factories alone that Singer used to make these machines produced 36 million total machines. 36 million. In fact, the year before this one was made, in 1913, this one you can tell by the serial number when it was made. The year before this was made, that same factory produced 1.3 million in a single year. That's just...
There are so many of these things. I have seen so many. Asterix, your grandmother had one. Yeah, every house had one of these things. Everyone I know had one of these things. Um, and that's the way it was back then. You had to make your own clothes. They in the Depression, what they did was the flour sacks. They started. People were making dresses and clothing out of flour sacks, out of cotton flour sacks, and the companies that sold the flour started printing different patterns on the flour bags so people could enjoy the cloth more. It's incredible. Everybody had a sewing machine. It, this whole thing has just sent me so far down a rabbit hole thinking about the sewing machines. And anyway, let's let this guy finish his story.
Factory. So you can understand why these just aren't worth a lot, because things that are worth a lot of money, things that antiques that are valuable because they're rare. And this just isn't rare. There's lots of these hanging around. If you pay more than about $600 for one, it better be in like mint condition, straight out the factory. And in fact, $600 sometimes people say online is way too much. So between $500 and $600 for a very pristine machine. This one is in great. It looks fantastic. It's in great working order. I have adjusted the belt on it to tighten it up a little bit. It does functions well. I have done a little bit of care and cleaning on this. You want to be very careful when you clean these. You're never to use any cleaner on the outside of the machine because the decals are very fragile, and any sort of cleaner, even light cleaners, can take these decals off.
It's amazing how many. Uh, oh, your grandmother played at the local cinema. Wow, how interesting. That yeah, that's a connection, isn't it? Um, I've seen videos, so these things are still made somewhere in the world. A lot of these videos of people making things show up in my YouTube feed and things I watch, and it's very interesting that these things are still made because there are a lot of places in the world that don't have electricity. There's so many places in the world that still need a machine like this, a treadle operated or hand cranked. I've seen hand cranked. A buddy of mine, his family had um, a hand one. It wasn't a treadle one, so I guess that's even older before the treadle was added to it, and it had like a domed box, wooden box it came in. And they're works of art, absolute works of art. But I've seen videos, modern day videos of people making these things and applying that decal or decal over onto the machine. And yeah, it's just if there are any model makers watching, um, do you remember the decals that came with them? Like the roundels on the Spitfires and things like that. That's what it's like. That's the way the decal is applied. That same kind of thing. But these things are still made because there's so many people in the world that don't have electricity and need such a thing still to this day. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But we could get them electricity.
And so what they say and what they suggest is you should go ahead and just kind of lightly wipe it down with like a wet cloth, or and then after that's done, after all the dust is gone, go ahead and removed, get a piece of machining oil, like the type of oil that you would put on like hair clippers, and put that on like a cloth and wipe it down. And it shines beautifully. Anyway, so I've got all that taken care of. I oiled the insides. Everything is running like a champ. And so what we're going to do today is go ahead and thread this machine. But first, a little bit of information about this singer, because I think a lot of people don't realize, this was a very tumultuous time in an industry that was normally dominated by men. In fact,
This gets interesting here. he just touches on it, but I've looked into this story of it's a story from Austria. I guess they had their own Luddites in Austria. The tailors in, I'm pretty sure it was Austria, went in and burned down the factory that made sewing machines because it was putting them out of work. Their own version of Luddites.
One of the very first factories where sewing machines, not singers, but sewing machines were manufactured was burned to the ground because tailors thought that their industry was at stake and they thought they would all be on the unemployment line if these things were created.
I'm just a poor tailor.
And tailors, most of them were men. And so all these men got together, these tailors, and they burned this factory to the ground because they were worried about their industry and their jobs. Very interesting fact. Singer, Isaac Singer, when he created the Singer sewing machine, an earlier version of this one, back in the 1800s, was originally sued because someone said, "Hey, you stole my patent, you stole my idea." And in fact, Isaac Singer did in fact steal someone else's idea for a sewing machine. But his reasoning that he presented to the court was that the guy I stole it from somebody else, which is true.
That is true. I think the guy's name was Isaac Howe that Singer stole the idea from. But Howe did come up with, and he just improved on someone else's invention. But the thing that Howe came up with, I think his name is Isaac Howe, the invention that he came up with was the needle. Because if you've ever looked at a sewing machine, the needle is, the hole is on the tip of the needle, which was the big breakthrough in getting a sewing machine to work. Because you have to pass the thread through, anyway. There's a fantastic video, Veritasium. If you watch Veritasium, has a video about the sewing machine and how it works. And it goes into great detail and has some great animations and a big physical giant representation of how a sewing machine works. And the hole in the tip of the needle was the big breakthrough in the sewing machine. And it came from a dream. So this fellow Isaac Howe was trying to improve on a sewing machine. And they had like the guy before was like, if it was like a crochet hook kind of thing. So it was a logical step, but anyway, this is the story. So it was kind of a crochet hook kind of thing. It had like a barb and it pushed the string through, the thread through the cloth. But Howe had this dream that these cannibals were going to kill him and eat him if he didn't finish the sewing machine. And they were pushing him into the pot with spears that had holes in the tip of the spear. And when he woke up, he had his eureka moment. There you go. So that's where some ideas come from. Paul McCartney dreamt yesterday.
But the court decided that Isaac Singer had to pay the other guy money because the guy who originally stole it from never filed a patent. The guy who originally created the idea for the lock stitch method that this machine uses never filed a patent. And then yes, someone stole it from him and Isaac Singer stole it from that guy. So it's pretty interesting. Also interesting to note, another tidbit of information was that Isaac Singer always used women in his advertising. And up until this point, tailors and people who worked on clothing were mostly, it was a men-dominated industry, a man-dominated industry.
You are just a poor tailor!
And he used women in his advertising. And because so many of the tailors were skeptical of the technology, and the machines and thought it would be difficult, thought it would be crazy. So Isaac Singer used women as a way to show the women, or show the men tailors, hey, it's so easy, even a woman can do it. Well, because of his advertising and because it was so effective and it showed women in such a positive light, that so many women flocked to these machines and they began using them. And then quickly, very quickly, this became a woman-dominated industry, and it was no longer a man's dominated industry. But interesting fact about that, and not to mention that Isaac's affinity for women went outside the workplace. He fathered 24 children. I thought that was interesting too. Anyway, so let's get this thing threaded. If it were not for so many good YouTube videos out there, I would have never figured this out. Not in a million years. And the instruction manual that I have was for an electronic one that came with this one for some reason. I don't know where it's at. Yeah, here it is. Came with a manual, but it's for a number 99 electric sewing machine, Singer. So not this version. This was the Treadle off-grid sewing machine. And we'll see if I can get this threaded.
So I'm hoping I can find some YouTube videos to help me fix whatever's wrong with this. I haven't tested it at all yet, but hopefully we'll find out what's wrong with that. Yeah, so this guy, yeah, you can see he, I have to mute it because there's music here. And I don't know if the music is copyrighted or not. Music is usually a big problem in videos. But yeah, I mean, we need to teach people how to do this. Children need to know how to do this stuff. I've done a bit of sewing with the sewing machine. I enjoy it. Anything working with my hands, I love it. So that's why am I not surprised he has camo material? I've got my Crocs on too. So I'm pretty sure that's the same one my grandmother had. So let's see.
Husband named Joseph, and they got married, and I don't know at what point they acquired this machine. I don't know if it first belonged to her mother when she first moved here from Germany, or if she bought it after she was married. I have no idea how that worked. All I know is that she had this was hers, she used it, and it was passed down from her to my grandfather and his wife, and then from my grandfather to my father, and I just received it recently. So basically 4 generations, and if my sons and maybe their wife uses it, or if I ever have a daughter one day, maybe it'll pass down to her and it'll be in its 5th generation in our family. So that's really neat to think about. But anyway, yeah, it's a neat machine. It's fantastic looking. It works fantastic, and I think we'll get some more years of use out of this. And I think it's really amazing that, you know, did my grandmother ever think that her great-grandson, or maybe even her great-grandson, great-great-grandson, or great-great-granddaughter might use this machine one day? Pretty cool piece of history for a family. All right. If you have a Singer in your family, which there's a lot of them out there, go ahead and leave a comment below. I want to know what model you have. How old is it? Is it electric or is it a treadle? Give me some insights. If you see
I don't think he's interested in my sewing machine, but this looks like an interesting channel. The Crazy History of Singer and My Treadle Sewing Machine. It's an American Homestead is the channel. There's a link to the video in the description, and you can have a look at that. Hello, baby with a laser. There used to be hundreds of them. Yes, there were. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what I was just going to talk about. You see them convert it into tables and all kinds of different uses for these things. That beautiful cast iron scroll work in the base of the machine. Really, anyway, let's get to the next video because that's kind of interesting as well. And I've been watching this uh, while we were waiting there. Now let's see if we can get through this advert here. This one's the birth of a sewing machine, Singer Sewing Machine Factory, Kilbowie, Glasgow in Scotland, which was our photo. And they show the factory here. Just skip around a bit in this because, as I said, it's over an hour long. And I hope people are still doing this kind of thing, making, well, I guess that's what YouTube is, isn't it? But going around to these places and documenting this stuff. So this clock tower was the largest electric clock in the world. I got a couple of notes here. I'll just skip around a bit because they go through the whole process of making the machine. Yes. Yeah, I really like sewing. I wish I had more time to be at such a thing. That's what I keep saying. There's not enough lifetimes for all the things I'd like to do. Uh, so that's the factory. Is this? So that's the factory. Let's get inside the factory here. This factory is no longer there, of course, like all the factories here in Manchester. A lot of them have been torn down, haven't they? So I don't know when this is. There's no note on this saying when it is. It's called the birth of a sewing machine at Singer's Kilbowie factory in Clydebank, Scotland. Refers to the construction and operation of the world's largest sewing machine factory, which opened in 1885 to meet overwhelming demand. The massive facility built at the turn of the century represented a shift from the earlier assembly shops to full-scale manufacturing in the UK and eventually became a significant employer, producing thousands of machines weekly before its closure in 1980. So I think it's tragic that we've lost all this um, manufacturing. It's like, the Kellogg's plant is being moved to somewhere else. It's really sad. It's tragic. If it's not mechanization, it's moved to some third world country where labor is cheap, and we just don't need that. We don't need to be. They say people in the first world don't want these jobs anymore. It's like I'd work there. I had a lot of friends that worked in car plants in Ontario, and I'm sure it's a boring job, putting the same nut on all day, every day, but they move you around and you do different jobs. But they were paid really well, and that's the problem with these type of manufacturing jobs. They either mechanize it or send it overseas. What's being said here? I yeah, I'm sure there were so many different look. I mean, they're taking it right from the raw material and turning it into a sewing machine. That's incredible. And it's this stuff is still being made to this day. It's still being made. They still make these machines. I saw a video of a guy making a sewing machine, on a dirt floor in a, you know, maybe he was just repairing it, but he was putting that decal on, the really decorative decal. And as I said, they still need these in places where there isn't electricity. Anyway, it's an incredible, incredible piece of machinery. I can't wait to get inside that one and see if I can get that one working. It's yeah, if it ain't broke, yeah, yeah. We need to. No, there's no bringing it back, is there? Well, maybe there is. I don't know. I think it's terrible. I think it's absolutely terrible that they're moving that cornflakes plant, closing it down. It can't be modernized. So, well, don't modernize it. Keep it the way it is. Just fix it and, you know, been making cornflakes for 80, 90 years there. It's a lot of jobs being lost there. Was it like 300 jobs being lost or something? And I'm sure a lot more than that worked there at one point. And that's just one of the latest examples. A Swiss Bernina. Yeah, I'm looking into the history of the sewing machine. It's amazing how many companies there were. Of course, the one we all know is Singer. I guess they dominated it. But yeah, there's hundreds and hundreds of different companies that made them. Just skip around a bit here so you can see a few of the different processes. There you go. Look at this. I talked about that in the um, what video was that? Can't remember. But there we go. Those leather belts, very interesting. Uh, Part of the reason for the buffalo, the bison, the extinction of the buffalo was the Industrial Revolution. There just weren't enough leather belts, and those leather belts were made from bison. And somebody took me up on that and was like, "Come on, man! There's lots of cows in the world." And it's like, no, there ain't that many cows. There ain't that many cows. As a matter of fact, when Gutenberg went to print his first run of Bibles, now I know we're talking the 1600s now, but when Gutenberg made his first run of Bibles, he wanted to print them on vellum, um, which is calf skin. And when he did the math, he figured out there weren't enough cows in Europe to print the the number of Bibles he wanted to print, which was not a lot. I think there are 6 that exist to this day, printed on vellum. The rest were printed on paper. He invented a process of making paper along with Bibles to for the printing press. So necessity is the mother of invention, right? But yeah, that's a lot of those were bison leather, buffalo leather. It's amazing how many people worked in these places, and uh, what's wrong with working in a place like that? You know, we got hearing protection now, and oh well, what can you say? And all powered by steam, no doubt. Not that we need to go back to burning more coal to power these plants. And I'm not. There's no sound on this. There is sound, but it's just music, which of course I don't know if it's copyrighted music or not. Is that the place that turned into a recording studio where New Order recorded? Which place is this you're talking about? And this is making needles. I mean, they made the entire machine at this place, right down to the needles. So pretty interesting. And 1855, today in history, the electric motor was patented for the sewing machine. So I don't think Nan's was like that. Nan's had a that's the one I was telling you my friend had. His family had one like that. It was a hand operated one. And I guess that was a cheaper version, I guess, or maybe an older version. I don't know. Well, obviously, it's at the same time as this. Yeah, Nan's had a cast iron base, cast iron legs. Just imagine how many people. I think I have a note here that says how many people worked at this place. Small assembly shop in Glasgow, 1867. Uh, 16,000 people. At its peak in the 1960s, the factory employed over 16,000 people, producing roughly 8,000 sewing machines per week. During the war, the factory continued production on a smaller scale, contributing to the war effort by making uniforms and components for civilian use. The sewing machine really changed the world. It amazes me this the impact that the sewing machine, the cotton thread had on the world. It's just incredible. Cotton thread. It built Manchester, and it just changed the world. It's never made sense to me that such a simple thing would start the Industrial Revolution and change the world so much. Thread, thread, cotton thread. And then looking into it, it never occurred to me back in the 1800s, the average family spent 13% of their income on clothes. It's down to 4% now, but the average family spends 4% of their income on clothes. And it's something you don't think about because this guy doesn't spend 4% of his income on clothes, I assure you that. I uh, I get a lot of free clothes and Goodwill clothes, and but I'm a fashion icon. That's just the way it is. Uh, but yeah, it's a lot of money, isn't it? 4%, even today, 4% of the average household's income is spent on clothing. So it's a lot of money, and the fashion industry is just. But it really really changed the world. It's how women entered the workforce. Working in factories and sewing. It just really changed the world so much. Anyway, it's a fascinating story. It's so that those trucks are what? They're probably 1910s, maybe 1920s at the latest, depending on how long those trucks were in use. But that style of truck is probably 1910s, 1920s. Yes. Yeah, it's of course, unfortunately, a lot of our clothes is not made from cotton thread anymore. Made from plastic, some kind of plastic. Anyway, that's enough of that. We don't need to go on about sewing machines forever, even though I probably could. And I don't know a lot about sewing machines, but uh, I need to learn a little bit to see if I can get that one working. Now, it might just work. I don't know. We'll find out soon. I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated on how the sewing machine is working. So let's go back to our where is it photo for tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. And there we go. There's our, so Astrex knows where this one is. He hasn't revealed it, I don't think. Perhaps he has, but there's one for you to think on. For tomorrow, and there you go. Well, thank you everybody for dropping by. Uh, that was an interesting one. The the video is in the description. The links to those videos if you want to check them out. And the Singer sewing machine in Scotland. It's like I said, it's over an hour long. It goes through the whole process of making a sewing machine, right from melting down iron to finished product. So it's pretty interesting. Well, I enjoyed that. Thanks a lot. We'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you in the next one.